Men judge generally more by the eye than by the hand, for everyone can see, but few can feel. That single sentence quietly explains why so many people feel confused about money. You see success everywhere, yet you cannot feel how it was built. You see results, but not the discipline behind them. You see wealth, but not the years of restraint, silence, and inner control that created it. Most people think money is loud. They think wealth announces itself. They believe success comes from bold moves, fast wins, or dramatic risk. But real wealth rarely behaves that way. It moves quietly, it grows patiently, and it is often misunderstood. This confusion is not new. It existed centuries ago, long before modern markets or technology. And few people have been more misunderstood than Niccolò Machiavelli. Not the myth, not the caricature, not the villain people imagine when they hear his name, but the man. Niccolò Machiavelli was not born into wealth. He did not inherit power. He did not chase luxury or public admiration. He worked, he observed, he endured. And most importantly, he thought differently. People often speak of him as if he were obsessed with manipulation, as if his mind was fixed only on control over others. But that is a shallow reading. Machiavelli understood something far more subtle. Before you can manage people, money, or institutions, you must first manage yourself. He lived in a world where fortunes rose and collapsed overnight, where political power shifted suddenly, where careless decisions destroyed families and cities. And in that unstable world, he learned a simple truth. Disorder is expensive. Emotion is costly. Short thinking always extracts a long price. He did not become financially stable by chasing gold. He earned his living through service, writing, advising, and disciplined labor. He served the Florentine Republic as a civil servant. He studied diplomacy, warfare, administration, and human nature. And while others spent recklessly when fortunes improved, he conserved. While others chased favor, he focused on competence. While others reacted emotionally, he observed patiently. Never attempt to win by force what can be won by deception. This line is often misunderstood. It is not about lying, it is about efficiency. Force is expensive. Conflict drains resources. Emotion clouds judgment. Machiavelli understood that the cheapest path is clarity. He believed wealth was not something you seize, it is something you organize. Money, to him, was a tool of order, not pleasure, not ego. Order in thinking, order in systems, order in responsibility. Most people want wealth to free them from discipline. Machiavelli believed discipline was the source of freedom. Here is a story that reveals this. After the Medici family returned to power, Machiavelli lost his government position. He was imprisoned, tortured, then released. Many men would have broken under that humiliation. Many would have chased revenge or sympathy. Instead, Machiavelli retreated to a modest rural life. By day, he worked the land. By night, he read, wrote, and studied. He wrote letters describing how he would put on clean clothes in the evening, sit with ancient thinkers, and engage them in disciplined thought. This was not romance, this was structure. He did not waste energy on resentment, he invested it in clarity. From this period came his most influential work, not written in comfort, not written in abundance, written in restraint. Here is the lesson. When circumstances strip you of status, routine becomes wealth. When income disappears, discipline becomes capital.
Most people think wealth begins when money arrives. Machiavelli knew it begins when waste ends. Ask yourself this quietly. If your income stopped today, would your structure remain? Would your habits protect you, or would chaos take over? Machiavelli believed that fortune favors preparation, not hope. Fortune is a woman, and if she is to be submissive, it is necessary to beat and coerce her. This quote shocks many people, but again, it is misunderstood. He was not glorifying cruelty, he was describing reality. Fortune is unstable, luck is emotional, opportunity does not respond to politeness, only preparedness, only readiness. Only those who have built internal order can use external opportunity. Machiavelli saw that most people wait for conditions to improve before they act wisely. He reversed that thinking. Act wisely first, let conditions follow. This is how his mindset differed from ordinary people. Ordinary people chase income. He studied leverage. Ordinary people react to events. He planned for cycles. Ordinary people spend when they feel secure. He conserved precisely then. He understood that true security is never emotional. It is structural. His writings were not academic exercises. They were field notes from real power systems. He observed how leaders lost control, not because they lacked strength, but because they lacked restraint. The same is true with money. People lose wealth not from lack of opportunity, but from lack of control. Control over spending, control over impulse, control over ego. Machiavelli warned against appearing rich without being strong. Appearances attract attention. Strength sustains survival. He believed wealth should serve stability, not vanity. And he practiced what he observed. Even as his ideas spread, he lived modestly. He relied on writing, patronage, and steady labor. No sudden riches, no dramatic rise, just consistency. Men in general judge more from appearances than from reality. This applies to money more than anything else. People admire what shines, they ignore what endures. Machiavelli chose endurance. He understood that systems outlast moments, that ownership outlasts excitement, that cost control matters more than revenue growth. He wrote carefully, negotiated thoughtfully, spent cautiously. His wealth was not measured in luxury, but in influence, survival, and legacy. Here is another question for you. Are you building something that looks successful or something that survives pressure? Most people confuse the two. Machiavelli never did. He believed patience was not passivity, it was strategic delay. Waiting is powerful when it is intentional. He waited to speak until he had clarity. He waited to act until timing aligned. He waited to publish until thought was complete. This patience protected him from mistakes that ruin others. And this is the quiet truth most people never hear. Speed is expensive. Haste multiplies errors. Emotion inflates cost. Wealth grows best under calm supervision. Machiavelli did not trust enthusiasm, he trusted preparation. He did not trust promises, he trusted structure. He did not trust appearances, he trusted incentives. This mindset can be learned. It is not mystical, it is human. You do not need power to begin, you need discipline. You do not need luck to start, you need clarity. You do not need perfect conditions, you need emotional control. Wealth is built the same way character is built, slowly, deliberately, quietly. And once built, it does not shout, it stabilizes. Machiavelli's life reminds you of this simple truth. Money obeys order, and order always begins inside you.
Wisdom consists of knowing how to distinguish the nature of trouble and in choosing the lesser evil. This sentence carries a financial truth few people ever accept. Money problems rarely come from one great mistake. They come from many small choices made without awareness. They come from refusing to choose discipline because comfort feels easier. Machiavelli understood that every path has a cost. There is no option without sacrifice. There is only the choice of which sacrifice you will accept. Most people choose the visible one. They sacrifice the future to protect the present. Machiavelli chose differently. He sacrificed comfort to protect stability. He believed that if you do not choose your costs consciously, life will choose them for you, and life is never gentle in its billing. This is why he spoke so often about control. Not domination, not cruelty. Control as self-governance. He saw that men who could not govern themselves were always governed by circumstances. Their income rose and fell with emotion. Their decisions changed with fear. Their spending followed mood, not reason. Machiavelli refused to live that way. He trained himself to think in systems. A system does not depend on motivation. A system works when motivation disappears. This is how he approached work. He wrote every day, not when inspired, not when praised, but when tired, when ignored, when uncertain. Writing was not expression, it was labor. This mindset shaped his relationship with money. Money to him was frozen effort, stored discipline, captured time. If money was earned through disorder, it dissolved quickly. If earned through structure, it endured. He watched merchants rise fast and collapse faster. He watched families inherit wealth and destroy it in one generation. And he identified the cause. They believed wealth was a reward. He knew it was a responsibility. This is a quiet shift in thinking, but it changes everything. When you see money as a reward, you consume it. When you see money as responsibility, you organize it. Machiavelli organized everything: his time, his words, his relationships. He did not seek favor from everyone. He aligned carefully. He understood that relationships are assets only when managed with boundaries. Unlimited access is expensive. Unclear agreements breed conflict. So he was measured, reserved, intentional. He did not confuse friendliness with trust. This protected his resources. Many people lose money through misplaced loyalty, through emotional generosity without structure. Machiavelli warned against this quietly. Men are ungrateful, fickle, simulators, and deceivers. This is not cynicism, it is realism. He did not hate people, he understood them. And because he understood them, he planned accordingly. In business and money, understanding human nature matters more than optimism. Contracts matter. Clear roles matter. Defined ownership matters. He believed confusion is the enemy of wealth. Where roles blur, conflict grows. Where expectations are unclear, costs multiply. He preferred clarity, even when it felt uncomfortable. This is another lesson for you. Avoiding hard conversations costs more than having them. Machiavelli did not chase harmony, he built stability. He knew that peace without structure is temporary. He also understood long-term thinking in a way most people do not. He thought in decades, in cycles, in consequences. While others focused on immediate approval, he focused on durability. He asked different questions. Will this decision weaken me later? Will this habit make me dependent? Will this expense reduce my freedom? These questions guided his choices, and over time they protected him. Wealth, he believed, was not about accumulation, it was about independence.
the ability to think clearly without pressure, the ability to act without desperation, the ability to wait. Waiting is power when you are prepared.
Most people cannot wait because they are internally disorganized. They need movement to escape discomfort. Machiavelli trained himself to sit with uncertainty. He did not rush to fill silence. He did not rush to spend surplus. He did not rush to respond emotionally. This calm created leverage. Others revealed themselves. Others made mistakes. Others exposed their intentions. He watched, and in watching, he learned. This habit applies directly to money. Before investing, observe. Before expanding, stabilize. Before spending, pause. Pausing is not weakness, it is inspection. Machiavelli believed that inspection prevents regret. Prudence consists in knowing how to distinguish the character of troubles. He applied this to finances. Not every opportunity is equal. Not every risk deserves attention. Not every gain compensates for instability. He would rather earn less and remain independent than earn more and become fragile. This is a rare mindset. Most people trade stability for status. They trade freedom for appearance. Machiavelli refused. Even when poor, he retained dignity through discipline. Even when ignored, he preserved clarity through routine. This is the inner wealth few people see. Now consider this question. If no one praised you for your financial choices, would you still make them? If no one saw your success, would it still matter? Machiavelli lived as if the answer mattered. He believed that the strongest position is one that does not need approval. Approval is expensive. It requires constant performance. Independence requires only consistency. This is why he avoided debt when possible, avoided obligations that limited his thinking. He knew that owing money is not just financial, it is psychological. Debt narrows vision. Pressure shortens thinking. He preferred modest means with autonomy over abundance with constraint. This is not anti-wealth, it is pro-control. True wealth to Machiavelli was the ability to choose calmly, to refuse when necessary, to wait when others rushed. He saw that many rulers fell not because they lacked power, but because they overextended. The same happens in business. Expansion without structure destroys more companies than competition ever does. Machiavelli believed that cost control was a moral duty. Waste signaled lack of respect for resources. He believed that if you cannot manage small things, large ones will crush you. So he lived simply, not because simplicity was virtuous, but because complexity is expensive. Each additional desire adds maintenance. Each additional obligation adds risk. He kept his life narrow enough to manage fully. This allowed depth. Depth in thinking, depth in work, depth in impact. Now listen carefully. Wealth is not created by adding endlessly. It is built by subtracting wisely. Removing waste, removing distraction, removing unnecessary expense. This principle repeats throughout Machiavelli's life. He trimmed excess, focused energy, preserved strength. He knew energy was finite. So is attention. So is money. Most people exhaust themselves chasing growth. He conserved himself for endurance. This is why his ideas survived centuries. Not because they were loud, but because they were grounded in reality. Reality does not reward excitement. It rewards preparation. Reality does not care about intention. It responds to structure. Machiavelli accepted this without resentment. Acceptance is powerful.
When you stop arguing with reality, you can work with it. He did not complain about human nature, he studied it. He did not wish fortune were fair, he planned for its volatility. This mindset removed emotional friction. Emotion wastes energy. He used emotion sparingly, not to suppress feeling, but to prevent distortion. Strong feelings distort judgment. Weak judgment destroys wealth. So he practiced restraint. Not silence from fear, silence from strength. He spoke when words mattered. He acted when action mattered. This discipline is available to you. It does not require position. It does not require wealth. It requires awareness. You begin by noticing where your money leaks through emotion. Impulse spending, reactive decisions, unnecessary risk. These are not moral failures. They are structural weaknesses. And structure can be rebuilt. Machiavelli rebuilt himself more than once, after disgrace, after poverty, after exclusion. Each time he returned to routine. Routine is the backbone of wealth. Routine removes choice from daily survival. Choice consumes energy. The fewer decisions you make emotionally, the more power you retain. This is why he favored habits. Same work, same discipline, same restraint, day after day. It does not feel heroic, it feels ordinary. But ordinary repeated long enough becomes unbreakable. This is the quiet secret. Wealth is not created in moments of brilliance. It is created in long stretches of consistency. Machiavelli trusted time, not blindly, but strategically. Time magnifies structure. It punishes disorder. If your habits are sound, time becomes an ally. If your habits are weak, time becomes an enemy.
Whoever wishes to foresee the future must consult the past. This is not nostalgia, it is discipline. Machiavelli did not look backward to admire history. He studied it to remove surprise. Surprise is expensive. When people are surprised by outcomes, it is usually because they ignored patterns. They believed their situation was unique. They trusted hope over observation. Machiavelli never trusted hope alone. He watched cycles repeat. Power rose, expanded, overreached, and collapsed. Fortunes followed the same rhythm. From this, he formed a financial instinct that most people never develop. He learned to build for durability, not for admiration. Durability is quiet. It attracts little attention, but it resists collapse. This is why he respected ownership. Not ownership as possession, ownership as responsibility. He believed that what you own must be maintained, what you control must be understood, what you depend on must be protected. Many people want income without responsibility. Machiavelli saw this as dangerous. Dependency weakens judgment. If your survival depends on pleasing others, your decisions will bend. If your income depends on unstable favor, your mind will never rest. So he valued independence above comfort. Even when dependent on patrons, he kept his thinking independent. He never surrendered clarity for security. This is a rare strength. He understood that power over yourself is the only reliable power. External control can be taken, internal discipline cannot. This applies directly to business. A business that relies on trends is fragile. A business that relies on one client is vulnerable. A business that relies on constant growth is unstable. Machiavelli would have avoided all three. He favored redundancy, multiple options, multiple skills. He made himself useful in more than one way: writer, advisor, observer, analyst. This protected him.
When one door closed, another remained open. Most people specialize emotionally. They attach identity to one role. When that role disappears, they collapse. Machiavelli separated identity from function. He was not his position, he was his capacity to think. This made him resilient. Here is a lesson. If your self-worth depends on income, income will control you. If your identity depends on title, title will dominate you. Machiavelli refused this trap. He believed that control begins with detachment. Detachment is not indifference, it is clarity without emotional dependency. He could analyze outcomes without taking them personally. This saved him money. Emotional decisions are expensive. He did not spend to soothe disappointment. He did not invest to prove worth. He did not expand to escape insecurity. He waited until decisions were clean. Clean decisions last. Another quote explains this mindset. A prudent man should always follow in the path trodden by great men. This is not imitation, it is pattern recognition. Machiavelli did not copy outcomes, he copied principles. He noticed that enduring figures shared habits. They controlled costs. They avoided unnecessary enemies. They preserved optionality. Optionality is wealth, the ability to choose, the ability to walk away, the ability to wait. Most people trade optionality for speed. Speed feels powerful, but it removes flexibility. Machiavelli valued flexibility more than force. Force creates resistance. Flexibility creates leverage. This is why he avoided public conflict whenever possible. Conflict drains resources. Energy spent fighting is energy not spent building. He chose battles carefully. Not every injustice requires response. Not every loss requires revenge. Some losses are tuition. He accepted this. Accepting loss without emotional escalation is a financial skill. Many people chase losses. They double down. They force recovery.
Machiavelli knew that forced recovery often deepens damage. He preferred retreat with dignity. Retreat preserves strength. This applies to investment, business, and life. Knowing when to step back saves more than knowing when to advance. This restraint protected his future. He also understood leverage. Not the modern concept, the human one. Leverage is using understanding to reduce effort. He used insight instead of force, planning instead of impulse. This reduced cost. Effort is expensive. Understanding is efficient. He invested heavily in learning, reading, observation, reflection. These cost little and compound endlessly. He knew that ignorance is the most expensive habit. Ignorance creates repeated mistakes. Repeated mistakes drain resources. So he reduced ignorance. He learned how people think, how institutions behave, how incentives operate. This knowledge paid him back many times over. Now ask yourself this. What do you repeatedly pay for because you refuse to learn? Late fees, bad contracts, emotional spending, unplanned decisions. Learning removes these costs. Machiavelli treated learning as investment. He did not learn for display, he learned for survival. This is why his ideas remain relevant. They are rooted in reality, not idealism. He did not believe people would change. He believed systems must account for human nature. This is a financial principle. Do not build plans that require perfection. Build plans that survive imperfection. Expect delay. Expect resistance. Expect error. Plan accordingly. He did not overestimate goodwill. He did not underestimate risk. He balanced both. This balance created stability. Another quiet habit defined him. He kept his desires limited.
Unlimited desire is endless expense. Every desire demands time, money, and energy. He chose which desires deserved attention. Most people do the opposite. They desire first, then justify. Machiavelli decided first, then desired. This prevented drift. Drift is dangerous. Drift moves you slowly into dependency without noticing. Extra expenses, extra obligations, extra commitments. Suddenly, freedom disappears. Machiavelli resisted drift through conscious limits. He lived within boundaries. Boundaries create peace. Peace allows clear thinking. Clear thinking builds wealth. This cycle repeats. Peace is not laziness, it is efficiency. He avoided chaos because chaos consumes attention. Attention is capital. Where your attention goes, your money follows. He directed attention deliberately, to work that mattered, to relationships that aligned, to expenses that served stability. This intentionality is learnable. You begin by noticing where your attention leaks. Constant checking, emotional comparison, impulse reaction. These habits quietly drain wealth. Replace them with pause. Pause before purchase. Pause before agreement. Pause before reaction. Pause creates space. Space reveals truth. Machiavelli lived in this space. He was not hurried. He was prepared. Preparation reduces anxiety. Anxiety causes bad decisions. So he managed anxiety by managing structure. Routine, study, reflection. These grounded him. And grounding produces calm authority. Calm authority attracts trust. Trust creates opportunity. Opportunity handled wisely becomes wealth. Not fast, not loud, but stable. As you listen, remember this. You do not need to become harsh. You need to become clear. You do not need to dominate others. You need to govern yourself. You do not need to chase wealth. You need to build a system that produces it quietly. Machiavelli did not live a glamorous life. He lived an effective one. Effectiveness outlasts glamour. And in the end, outlasting is what matters.
He who controls others may be powerful, but he who has mastered himself is mightier still. This idea lived quietly beneath everything Machiavelli observed. Power, to him, was never about volume. It was about stability. He saw men who ruled loudly and collapsed suddenly. He saw institutions that appeared strong but cracked under pressure. And he noticed something consistent. Those who lacked self-control always lost control eventually. This is not a moral statement, it is a practical one. Emotion is expensive when it governs decisions. Anger invites retaliation. Fear invites concession. Pride invites overreach. Machiavelli treated emotion as weather. You cannot eliminate it, but you can prepare for it. He did not suppress feeling, he managed response. Response is where wealth is protected or destroyed. In moments of pressure, ordinary people react. They rush, they explain, they justify. Machiavelli paused. Pausing is a form of power. It interrupts impulse. It restores perspective. Many financial mistakes are made not because information is missing, but because patience is. He understood that silence often protects more than speech. In negotiation, silence reveals leverage. In conflict, silence preserves dignity. In finance, silence prevents regret. He did not need to announce his plans. He did not need to defend every choice. Defense signals insecurity. Security does not explain itself. This quiet confidence shaped how he handled money. He did not chase validation through spending. He did not use wealth to signal importance. Signaling is expensive. It requires constant reinforcement. True authority does not advertise, it stabilizes.
Machiavelli respected this deeply. He believed that visible power invites challenge. Invisible power invites compliance. This applies to money as well. The more loudly you display wealth, the more pressure it attracts. Expectations rise, requests multiply, attention sharpens. He avoided this. He understood that privacy protects resources. Privacy allows mistakes without consequence. Privacy allows experimentation without judgment. He kept his financial life simple enough to remain private. This simplicity was strategic. It reduced friction. Friction drains energy. Energy is required to build. He conserved energy carefully. He avoided unnecessary conflict. He avoided unnecessary luxury. He avoided unnecessary explanation. Each unnecessary thing extracts a cost. Most people do not feel these costs immediately. They feel them later. Exhaustion, stress, regret. Machiavelli avoided delayed costs by being disciplined early. This is one of his most valuable lessons. Pay costs early when they are small, or pay them later when they are crushing. Saving early costs restraint. Saving late costs panic. Learning early costs humility. Learning late costs loss. Structure early costs effort. Structure late costs collapse. He chose early costs. This choice defined his life. Another misunderstood idea attributed to him is cruelty. But Machiavelli distinguished clearly between cruelty and decisiveness. Cruelty is emotional. Decisiveness is practical. He believed prolonged indecision caused more suffering than firm action. In money matters, hesitation creates compounding problems. Unpaid debts grow. Ignored inefficiencies multiply. Avoided decisions return with interest. He believed in clean resolution, clear endings, clear boundaries, clear accountability. This reduced long-term cost. Many people keep financial wounds open. They avoid looking, they delay correction. Machiavelli would close the wound quickly. Short pain, long stability. This principle applies directly to business. Fire when necessary. Cut losses when required. End arrangements that weaken structure. Not with anger, with clarity. Clarity is not coldness, it is respect for reality. Reality does not negotiate with emotion. He accepted this. Acceptance gave him peace. Peace allowed him to think. Thinking allowed him to plan. Planning allowed him to survive uncertainty. He knew that the future belongs to those who are prepared, not hopeful. Hope without preparation is gambling. Preparation without hope is discipline. Discipline wins over time. Machiavelli trusted time more than talent. Talent burns bright and fades. Time rewards consistency. This is why he focused on habits. Same reading, same writing, same reflection. Daily, uncelebrated effort. He believed greatness was boring in practice. Excitement fades, routine remains. Routine compounds.
Most people abandon routine when emotion changes. He did not. This steadiness protected his finances. No dramatic rise meant no dramatic fall. Stability is unattractive to those chasing excitement, but stability builds quietly. He accepted modest means because they were manageable. Manageable systems survive. Overextended systems collapse. This is why he warned against excess. Excess creates vulnerability. More possessions require more defense. More employees require more coordination. More obligations require more compromise. He kept life narrow enough to control.
Control reduces anxiety. Anxiety leads to poor decisions. Again, the cycle repeats. Control creates calm. Calm creates clarity. Clarity creates wealth. Wealth preserves control. This loop was central to his thinking. He never separated inner life from external success. He believed inner disorder always becomes external failure, and external success without inner order always collapses. This is not philosophy, it is observation. Now consider this quietly. Where in your financial life are you avoiding clarity? An expense you do not track, a habit you do not question, a dependency you do not confront. Avoidance does not remove cost, it delays it. Machiavelli confronted early, not dramatically, not emotionally, calmly. Calm confrontation preserves dignity. Dignity is not pride, it is self-respect. Self-respect enforces standards. Standards protect wealth. He lived by standards even when no one was watching, especially then. This is why his work endures. It was not crafted for applause, it was crafted for accuracy. Accuracy lasts. Accuracy does not age. Truth about human nature remains relevant because humans remain human. Fear still distorts. Greed still blinds. Patience still rewards. Machiavelli accepted humanity as it was. He did not demand perfection, he designed for reality. This is the most practical wealth lesson you can learn. Do not build plans that require discipline you do not have. Build systems that support discipline. Automatic savings, clear budgets, simple structures. Reduce reliance on willpower. Willpower fluctuates, systems endure. Machiavelli trusted systems more than intention. He trusted structure more than promise. Promises are free. Structure costs effort. But effort paid once saves repeatedly. As this part closes, remember this. You do not need to harden your heart. You need to steady your mind. You do not need to dominate the world. You need to organize your life. You do not need to fear uncertainty. You need to prepare for it. Machiavelli lived without illusions, and in doing so, he lived with stability.
A man who wishes to act entirely up to his professions of goodness soon meets with what destroys him among so many who are not good. This line is often misunderstood as harshness. In truth, it is about realism. Machiavelli was not warning against goodness. He was warning against naivety. Naivety is expensive. When you assume the world will protect you because your intentions are pure, you stop protecting yourself. And when you stop protecting yourself, costs appear quietly. Hidden fees, unspoken expectations, unbalanced agreements. Machiavelli believed dignity must be defended with clarity, not hope. This shaped how he thought about legacy. Legacy, to him, was not reputation, it was durability. Reputation fades, durability remains. He did not chase admiration in his lifetime. He focused on producing work that would survive pressure. Pressure reveals quality. His writings endured because they were built on observation, not fantasy. The same principle applies to wealth. Wealth built on image collapses when attention shifts. Wealth built on structure remains when interest fades. He knew this. So he invested in things that could not be taken easily. Skill, understanding, insight. These assets appreciate with time. Money can be lost, position can be removed, skill travels with you.
Understanding compounds quietly. This is why he never stopped learning, even in exile, especially in exile. When external power was gone, internal power remained. This is the kind of wealth few people recognize, but it is the only wealth that cannot be confiscated. Machiavelli believed that a person should always be preparing for conditions to worsen, not improve. This was not pessimism, it was insurance. Insurance is wealth in disguise. You pay a small cost now to avoid a crushing cost later. Most people avoid insurance because it feels unnecessary until it isn't. He insured his life with discipline, with restraint, with foresight. This made him calm in uncertainty. Calm attracts opportunity. People trust those who are not desperate. Desperation leaks. It shows in pricing, in negotiation, in compromise. Machiavelli guarded against desperation. He reduced needs. Fewer needs mean fewer pressures. Pressure distorts judgment. Judgment determines outcomes. So he kept his life lean. Not poor, lean. Leanness is efficient. It allows quick movement, clear thinking, adaptation. He saw that empires collapse when they grow bloated. The same is true for individuals. Too many expenses, too many obligations, too many dependencies. Collapse does not arrive suddenly, it arrives quietly through maintenance overload. Machiavelli avoided overload. He believed that long-term influence required sustainability. Burning brightly and burning out impressed no one who mattered. Endurance earned respect. This is why he valued patience so deeply. Patience is misunderstood as waiting. In truth, patience is active. It is preparing while others rush. It is building while others display. It is strengthening while others celebrate. Patience accumulates leverage. Leverage reveals itself later.
Most people never see the payoff because they abandon patience too early. Machiavelli did not. He was willing to be unseen. Unseen work builds visible results later. This is a hard lesson. Ego wants recognition now. Wealth responds to discipline over time. He chose wealth. He also understood something subtle about authority. Authority does not demand attention. It commands respect through consistency. He did not argue excessively. He did not justify endlessly. Consistency explained everything. People learned what to expect from him. Predictability in values builds trust. Trust reduces friction. Friction increases cost. This applies directly to business and money. When people know your standards, negotiations are simpler. When your behavior is consistent, contracts are cleaner. Inconsistency invites testing. Testing invites conflict. Conflict consumes resources. Machiavelli avoided unnecessary conflict by being steady. He did not shift principles for convenience. This made him reliable. Reliability is a form of wealth. People return to reliable partners. They invest in reliable systems. They trust reliable leadership. Reliability is built through discipline. Discipline is built through self-respect. Self-respect comes from alignment. Living in alignment with your own rules. Machiavelli had rules. He followed them even when inconvenient, especially then. This protected his integrity. Integrity is not morality alone. It is internal coherence. When your actions match your standards, You move without hesitation. Hesitation is costly. He avoided it by being clear about who he was. This clarity removed internal conflict. Internal conflict drains energy. Energy is required to build wealth. Again, the same cycle appears. Clarity creates energy. Energy creates consistency. Consistency creates stability. Stability creates wealth. This is not dramatic. It is quiet. Quiet things last. Machiavelli's legacy proves this. He died without great riches, but his influence shaped centuries. Influence is another form of wealth. It extends beyond your lifetime. But even if you never seek influence, the same principles apply. Build something that outlasts moods. Build something that survives stress. Your financial life does not need excitement. It needs order. Order is calming. Calm allows perspective. Perspective prevents mistakes. Mistakes are expensive. Machiavelli saw this clearly. He did not moralize wealth. He did not demonize it. He respected it as a force that amplifies structure. Good structure, wealth stabilizes. Bad structure, wealth accelerates collapse. This is why some people become worse with money. Money does not change character. It reveals it. Machiavelli understood revelation. He did not rely on money to fix inner disorder. He fixed inner order first. Then money became useful. This is the sequence. Reverse it, and problems follow. Now listen carefully as this series comes to rest. You do not need to become someone else. You need to become more ordered. You do not need to force outcomes. You need to prepare conditions. You do not need to fear the future. You need to respect it. Machiavelli respected reality. Reality rewarded him with endurance. And endurance, in the end, is the quietest and strongest form of wealth. Not loud, not flashy, but stable. And stability is freedom.
Men are anxious to improve their circumstances, but unwilling to improve themselves. This observation explains more financial failure than any market crash. Machiavelli saw that people wanted better outcomes without better habits. They wanted reward without responsibility, security without structure. He understood that circumstances do not change first. People do. And when people change internally, circumstances are forced to follow. This is where his thinking becomes deeply practical. He did not believe wealth came from wishing harder. He believed it came from becoming harder to destabilize. Stability was his true ambition. Not dominance, not luxury, stability. A stable man cannot be rushed. A stable man cannot be easily pressured. A stable man negotiates from calm. Calm is leverage. Most people underestimate this. They think leverage comes from money alone. But money without calm is fragile. It panics. It reacts. It flees at the wrong time. Machiavelli trained calm long before he had security. This is critical. If you wait for wealth to calm you, you will never be calm. If you become calm first, wealth becomes easier to manage. He did not depend on external certainty. He created internal certainty. Internal certainty comes from rules. Rules about spending, rules about time, rules about reaction. He lived by limits. Limits are not punishment, they are protection. A river without banks becomes a flood. A life without limits becomes chaos. Machiavelli respected boundaries. He knew exactly how much uncertainty he could tolerate, how much risk was acceptable, how much dependence was too much. This prevented overreach. Overreach is the silent destroyer of wealth. People rarely lose everything at once. They stretch slightly beyond capacity. then slightly more, until collapse becomes inevitable. Machiavelli stopped before that point. He believed that strength lay in knowing when enough was enough. Enough income, enough exposure, enough ambition. Ambition without containment becomes appetite. Appetite never rests. This is why many wealthy people remain anxious. Their appetite has no boundary. Machiavelli avoided this trap. He defined success narrowly: to think freely, to work consistently, to live without desperation. This definition protected him. He did not compare himself endlessly. Comparison erodes satisfaction. Comparison drives unnecessary spending, unnecessary risk, unnecessary pressure. He stayed focused on function, not status. Function keeps systems alive. Status consumes resources. This is a powerful distinction. Ask yourself this quietly. Is this expense functional or symbolic? Is this decision stabilizing or performative? Machiavelli asked these questions instinctively. They guided him away from ruin. He also understood time better than most. He saw time not as urgency, but as ally. Those who rush betray insecurity. Those who wait reveal confidence. Confidence attracts opportunity. Opportunity handled without desperation creates wealth. Desperation destroys opportunity. So he removed desperation by reducing dependence. He diversified his usefulness. He lowered his needs. He increased his competence. Competence is calming. When you know you can produce value, fear weakens. Fear causes bad financial decisions. So he invested heavily in becoming capable. Capable men are rarely trapped. Even when circumstances tighten, capability opens exits. This is why he valued skill over speculation. Speculation promises fast reward. Skill guarantees long survival. Survival precedes prosperity. He accepted this order. Many people reverse it. They gamble for prosperity and lose survival. Machiavelli refused to gamble with stability. He preferred slow certainty to fast chance. This mindset made him resilient across regimes, losses, and exclusion. Resilience is wealth. It does not appear on balance sheets, but it determines who remains when others disappear. He also understood something subtle about peace. Peace is not the absence of struggle, it is the absence of internal conflict. Internal conflict is expensive. When you fight yourself, progress stalls, money leaks, focus scatters.
Machiavelli aligned his actions with his understanding. This alignment reduced friction. Reduced friction increased efficiency. Efficiency compounds quietly. This is why his life appears simple on the surface. But simplicity was intentional. Intentional simplicity is advanced discipline. He chose clarity over clutter. Clutter confuses judgment. Confusion leads to waste. Waste drains wealth. Again, the chain is clear. Nothing mystical, nothing exaggerated, just cause and effect. Machiavelli trusted cause and effect more than hope. Hope is emotional. Cause and effect is reliable. He built his life accordingly. And this is the final lesson he leaves you. Wealth is not a miracle. It is a consequence of order, a consequence of restraint, a consequence of clarity practiced daily. You do not need to become ruthless. You need to become deliberate. You do not need to harden your heart. You need to discipline your habits. You do not need to chase success. You need to remove the behaviors that repel it. Machiavelli did not live loudly. He lived precisely. Precision outlasts noise. And in a world addicted to speed and display, precision is rare. Rare things are valuable.
This is why his thinking survives, and why, if you apply it quietly, your stability can grow the same way. Slow, grounded, unshaken, not built for applause, built to last.